strange to me that he's gotten off scot-free on this case when you've got a recording where he's talking to his fiancée and he says, "You need to be terrified of me too," and with a B word after that. And so how does that not translate into something happened? And
that's where I am. It's like the league can't shut its eyes. The league has former FBI and CIA and police officers, high-ranking police officers, they end up hiring to conduct these investigations, and where they probably have, greater discretion on how to deal with what they find out, what they know. And as simple as it would be to say, okay, the league can just leave it all to the police and our judicial system, the reality is that the league sometimes knows more than that system does.
That's right. And the Ezekiel Elliott case, as an example, when he gets a 6-game suspension, in a case where it's basically the woman's word against his word, and he gets whacked for 6 games. Well, how does that not have a similar situation here with Tyreek Hill? I don't understand it. I
don't get it at all.
Yeah, and I think it's a bad look for the league. I really think it is, and I know they've added all these other layers and different people that are involved in at the league level and making sure that these cases are properly looked at and punished and all that. But yeah, Tyreek Hill just really bothers me. And then on top of it, to hear the rumblings that perhaps the Chiefs are looking at doing a long-term major extension with this guy. Are you kidding me?
I know. And this is an organization that actually was praised to a certain extent for, releasing Kareem Hunt when they appeared to need him for a playoff run. But, that I don't really trust the Chiefs, and I don't trust most NFL teams to do the right thing in these situations.
Yeah, and that really was seems to be an inconsistency too, as you said, with the Kareem Hunt situation. So I just don't get it. I don't get what's the urgency to get this guy a big money deal when you got the franchise tag, he's got another year on his contract unless he's threatening to hold out, which could be happening and we don't know about it. But even still, where's his leverage? There's no leverage there.
Leverage.
No. So I would sit tight if I were the Chiefs and say, hey, you have to show us that we can rely on you and that you can mature and not have these type of situations continually develop, because it's not just one case with him.
No, absolutely not. And as we preview Viking training camp and start looking forward to the season, I had a conversation with a couple people yesterday, and we were talking about the Vikings, and someone well said to me, I don't think the public appreciates just how big a disappointment last year was. These people got caught up in the details and the close race, the fact they played meaningful games down the stretch. But that team went out and signed Kirk Cousins to take them to the Super Bowl. The year after they came within one game of going to the Super Bowl, they looked absolutely loaded, and they thought they had fixed the offensive line, and they had Dalvin Cook healthy, and they went 8-8. 8-8, given the expectations, is huge disappointment.
Yeah, 8-7-1. We'll give them the tie.
8-7-1. You're right.
I
always forget about the tie. 8-7-1.
But yeah, no, it was a huge disappointment. There's no doubt about it. And I've always said sports is about expectations. And the greatest situation, such as the Twins this year, is when the expectations are relatively low and you exceed them greatly. And that happened for the Vikings in 2017 when they were coming off 8-8 and went to 13-3 into the NFC Championship game. And the worst situation is when the expectations are super high and you end up kind of not doing well, as happened last year. So, yeah, I don't think there's any question it was a disappointing year for everybody in the organization, all the fan base, and I don't know why anybody would say it's underappreciated how disappointing it is, because I think everybody felt that way. And I think looking at it this year, what are the expectations? As I said, I think they're still pretty high. And what happens, we shall see. But I think earlier we were talking about one of the interesting things to look for in training camp for me, and we could talk more about this next week too, who emerges that's a surprise. And last year, Holton Hill was one of those guys in training camp, undrafted college free agent. Another guy was Anthony Harris, who took a starting job and played pretty well. And so who is that guy this year in camp? And we'll talk more about that next week, too.
Absolutely. And I always liked Anthony Harris. To me, he was one of those guys who wasn't a spectacular athlete, so I think he was underrated, but he was one of those guys who he ends up in the right place. He makes plays. He actually makes football plays. It's not about the 40-yard dash time. It's not about how much he can bench. He makes football plays. So I'm actually really happy he's getting a real shot here.
Yeah, definitely true. And I think that he'll be more comfortable this year in his second full season as a starter. And he's a guy that the team and Rick Spielman will be watching closely to see if they want to give him a nice extension after this season. So we shall see what happens there. And I think otherwise, Jim, if we look around the NFL, OBJ.
What's up with OBJ now?
OBJ is very talkative again, as usual. And this week he ripped the Giants, which I don't know why he's spending time ripping the Giants when he's in Cleveland now. And supposedly he's happy in Cleveland, but he's still ripping.
I suppose he's happy, but didn't show up for a lot of the offseason stuff, and now he's ripping the Giants. He doesn't seem happy.
No, he doesn't. And so he goes out and talks about how dare the Giants not keep him posted on the trade to Cleveland. Dave Gettleman disrespected him, and Pat Shurmur, same thing, should have kept him in the loop. And then he goes back to talking about how he was only targeted 7 times in the playoff loss to the Packers 3 years ago. And as everybody recalls, that was after the infamous boat trip to Miami, and he played terrible that day. He had 3 drops, and he was targeted 11 times, not 7. And I wrote about that
about the drops.
in my sporting news, my sportingnews.com story this week. And it's just OBJ. He is such an egomaniac. He is such a self-promoter, and then I think one of the most absurd things is he makes a comment that really struck me. He says he was one of the main reasons for keeping that brand alive. He's talking about the New York Giants.
Football Giants?
Yeah, the brand. Yeah. Now, they were there for 89 years before he got there. Sold out, I would say, basically forever.
Won championships.
Won 4 Super Bowls and 24 playoff games, whatever. How many playoff games did he win when he was there? 0.
And they play in both. They're identified with New York, and they play in New Jersey, so they have a massive fan base.
Right. And they'll be sold out this year with OBJ in Cleveland. So making a statement like that, just ridiculous in this GQ story that he did. And then the last one thing that he says is, I probably shouldn't have signed that extension, that $95 million extension. Really? Okay.
Wow.
Nice call, OBJ. Like you were going to turn that deal down as the highest paid receiver in the league.
You know, Pat Shurmur did really good work here. Is he in a position where he can come out of this looking good? Is he in a position where he can win, or is he just kind of the coach who gets them to the next coach as they try to reassemble their organization?
I think it's tough because if he's counting on Eli Manning, Eli is way past his prime.
Yep.
Daniel Jones is a rookie, not probably ready to step in yet. They got Saquon Barkley. They lose a big playmaker in Beckham when he's healthy and when he's right. And defensively, they've gotten rid of a lot of pieces. So I just don't know that they can count on a big improvement this year. And if that doesn't happen, what happens to Pat Shurmur? It could be tough. And if they do make some strides, then maybe he can survive it and have the new quarterback develop and have an opportunity in the future. But the division isn't easy.
No.
When you got the Cowboys are pretty strong, you've got the Redskins have some talent, and the Eagles seem to be in a good position too. So not going to be easy for the New York Giants and for Pat Shurmur for sure.
It almost feels to me like when this Vikings regime hired Leslie Frazier, it's like they hired Leslie because everything was so dysfunctional under Brad Childress. They just wanted somebody to kind of calm things down and help them, just move forward. And I've been told that internally they never really expected Leslie to last that long. They just needed kind of a guy to get them to the next guy. And, of course, as soon as they got a chance to fire him, they did. And I just wonder if Shurmur's kind of that guy, the nice guy, career assistant, maybe he gives you a chance to win, but if he doesn't, you just move on to the next guy.
And that could well be the case. And meanwhile, it was still a great opportunity for Pat Shurmur. Can't pass it up, and he'll probably end up somewhere else as a coordinator in the future. And so, meanwhile, he's probably getting paid about $5 million a year. So, not a bad gig.
I'm not feeling sorry for him. I'm just trying to paint his situation in the proper light.
That's right, exactly. So we'll see how that shakes out. A lot of great storylines around the NFL that we'll be talking about during the next few weeks as training camps open now and NFL season is here.
Thanks to Jeff. Thanks to the agency for hosting us today. Thanks to WhiteBearLakeSuperstore.com and BiteSquad.com. Download the Bite Squad app. Upload your information. Makes ordering really easy. We appreciate their support of the network, and we will be back next week, probably talking out from Vikings training camp.